Okay, so this is the talk about Chapter 21, the talk about vulnerable populations and vulnerability as a concept that public health nurses need to be aware of. We're going to define the term vulnerable populations, describe the groups, describe the factors that lead to vulnerability, and talk about strategies you can use. The big question then is, what special consideration do public health nurses give to vulnerable populations? So I wanted to start with talking about our Lassallean mission, and to remind you that our mission is rooted in a spirituality of justice and love, expressed through our respect for each person as a fellow traveler who is a member of the Church. It is a heritage manifested by undramatic virtues like listening, understanding, and sheer human decency. Its application includes self-examination on how well we practice what we preach about tolerance and social justice. Living in the Lassallean tradition of association entails affirmation of the other person's sense of self-esteem based on compassion and forgiveness. And so this is really the perfect point to remind you, you are a Lassallean student and you have been immersed in this idea of our mission, of respecting the other person in front of us, of wanting to learn about them and wanting to stand up for social justice issues and to be tolerant. And so that's a good way to start our talk about vulnerable populations. And so vulnerability is the susceptibility to actual or potential stressors that may lead to an adverse effect. And we'll talk about the vulnerable populations, as you can see in your book: the rural populations, migrant populations, teens who are pregnant, people who are in prison. They are at increased risk for adverse health outcomes because of the social factors that play a part in their life. And they also seem to suffer from health disparities. And remember, talking about the inequality of the way that their health is met. Health disparities, the wide variations in health services and health status among certain population groups. Social, economic, and/or environmental disadvantage are the big parts of what help to create health disparities for populations. So again, they're more likely to develop health problems as a result of exposure to these social risks and environmental risks that they have. And they're very sensitive to these factors. There's this type of accumulative effect on them. And we talk about environmental pollutions. We're going to talk about that when we do Chapter 6. We're going to talk about limited resources, not being able to pay co-pays, not having health insurance, and then the biopsychosocial resources. When we did our Friedman family assessment, those factors that, do they have social support, looking at the ECHO map, do they have support in the society, in the community, in the school, at work, that will help them to avoid becoming vulnerable. So the social determinants of health, again, are those social factors that affect a person and contribute to them to having poor health outcomes. Poverty, we know how that affects people. Not having stable housing, not having heat, not having air conditioning, not having hot water, not having running water, a lack of health insurance. Education level. The higher the education level you have, the better your health. That's been documented. Environmental factors such as rural populations who don't have access to health care, nutrition status, their stress levels, and prejudice that they may encounter. Their health status that contributes to vulnerability is their age. We know that the very young are vulnerable and the very old are vulnerable as well. So the cycle of vulnerability is when one problem is solved, another comes at them and they just begin to feel hopeless. They get one problem solved and another one pops up. So the goal when nurses are working in the community is to provide comprehensive family center services, one-stop services, so they can go to the clinic, get the WIC, see the social worker for other referrals, maybe get the dentist, get the psych. We've talked about this before, that one-stop, hassle-free place where they can get the comprehensive services. Again, comprehensive services are services that focus on more than one health problem or more than one concern, so that they might have the social worker handle the financial concerns, the economic concerns, as well as meeting with the physician or the nurse practitioner. The wraparound services are social and economic services provided directly, wrapped around the healthcare. It's very similar. Comprehensive is more focused on healthcare, but the wraparound services include more of the economic issue services that they need, and maybe legal counsel, things like that, where comprehensive services are mental health, physical health, dental health, WIC, so comprehensive health services. We need to advocate for our clients because they often are disenfranchised, meaning they don't feel they have a voice, they don't feel they have a place at the table. So we have to help them and advocate for them, which means work on behalf of another person while supporting them for self-determination. We want to use our social justice principles of equality and equity, in which the worth of every member is respected and valued, as well as their needs being met by equity, what they need, instead of just equality where everybody gets the same service. So social justice, equity is very important for these vulnerable populations. And then again, always use culturally and linguistically appropriate terms, language, when providing health care. Create a trusting environment means make the client comfortable, good eye contact, smile with them, you feel relaxed, you have your body language is accepting, is leaning forward, showing interest. Check with the priorities of the client. What is the client's biggest issue? We talked about that with the population at the Poplar Street Health Center. They wanted the dogs in the stop sign, and once that was taken care of, they began to trust, and their priorities were taken care of. Then you can begin to talk to them about their health priorities, because interesting in that hierarchy of needs, the basic needs need to be met. Assess them for social support. Again, that's in the Freedman's Family Assessment. See who can help them. Can someone give them a ride if they need it somewhere? Can someone take them grocery shopping? Who else can assist them with babysitting and things like that? Interprofessional collaboration for the needed services. So if they need the dentist, is there one at the clinic? Do they need the physical therapist? Do they need the psych help? Do they need psych help for their kids? So collaborating as a team. And then trying to develop long-term relationships. Hopefully those are families that are staying in your community and you're going to work with them on a long-time basis. So you're going to do the Freedman assessment, do the socioeconomic resources section, do preventative health needs, congenital and genetic predisposition to illness, check on the amount of stress, and check on their living environment and the neighborhood surroundings. So remember, review the Freedman assessment for those sections, which would become very important in a vulnerable population. Again, create the trusting environment, show them respect, compassion, and concern. Don't give them demands. Don't tell them what to do. Don't make any assumptions. They may look a certain way to you and they may be the smartest person, but they're down on their luck. So never make assumptions. Feel them out, ask them questions, see where they stand. coordinate services with providers, making things smooth for them, trying to avoid them hassling, running into hassles, advocate for more healthcare services, focus on prevention. This part, know when to walk beside the client and when to encourage them to walk ahead. Walking beside means saying, let's go together. Let me show you where WIC is. Let me give you some questions to ask when you make that phone call. That's walking beside them. That's not doing for them, and that's not leaving them alone. And then they will learn to walk ahead. Know what resources are available for them so that their needs can be met. And then this last one is develop your own support network. Public health nurses often work independently. They see the stresses of the families. They internalize it. They feel the sympathy, empathy, compassion for their families, and nurses can get frustrated as well. And so have your own support network that you can go back and tell your manager. You can go back and tell another nurse who understands the population that you're working with, so that you can deal with your own issues that are arising. When you evaluate the outcome, again, when you're kind of finished working with the family on the crisis situation, you've helped to change their situation in a little bit, check to see if their family goals were met, use your clinical skills to assess the family for the outcomes. Again, is it cleaner? Is there the asthma, under control? Different things like that. Check the referral sources to see if the family came for services. You can see, is she signed up for WIC? Oh, great. She's coming to the clinic. Does she have that appointment? Great. For her prenatal care? Great. And then you can, in the long term, check the morbidity and mortality reports. Is asthma, emergency room asthma cases going down? Is the diabetes rate stable or going down as far as morbidity? Those are the big long-term outcomes that you're looking at. Make sure that the referrals that you give to your client meet the needs of your client. Don't give them frivolous, or don't give them services or warn them. Section 8 housing has lists that may take 2 years. So don't say, oh, we're going to put you on that list, you're going to get housing. They may feel frustration. They may lose trust in you. Make sure that you don't increase their frustration. Make sure you give them the warnings. And that's it for our talk on Chapter 21. We can talk about more. I have more examples. Make sure you check Canvas for the extra activities to help you understand. But the vulnerability concept is the beginning. Nurses have to really focus on developing trust in these clients who are vulnerable, because they have had a difficult life before and may not trust the system, may not trust the people who are telling them things that they should be doing. Thank you.